You keep thinking desire is a feeling. It isn't. Desire is allocation. Who gets attention? Who gets access? Who gets permission to take up space in someone else's mind? And allocation is governed by power. This is the rule you've been dodging because it makes you accountable. Power decides who gets wanted. Not virtue, not effort, not how much you explained, clarified, reassured, checked in, followed up, sent the long, earnest text. The algorithm doesn't care. It looks for leverage. It looks for who can say no. It looks for who can leave. You've been taught to audition. You call it being vulnerable, being communicative, being available. What you actually did was subsidize someone else's choice. You paid for their certainty with your dignity, and then you called it honesty. Listen closely. You don't get chosen for being easy to understand. You get chosen for being expensive to obtain. Expensive doesn't mean cruel. It means costly to mishandle, hard to replace, structurally scarce. If you are always reachable, always accommodating, always ready to explain yourself one more time, your price is obvious. It's low. You think you lost them because you weren't enough. You lost them because you had no friction. Powerless things glide. They don't hold. Let me put you in the moment. It's late. The phone face up. You're rereading the thread because it's cheaper than accepting the verdict. Their answers got shorter. You compensated with paragraphs. They canceled once. You said, "No worries." So fast the letters burned. You felt disrespected, but you edited that out because you'd rather be wanted than be true. You hit send. Then you waited for your turn to be wanted, like it was a bus stop. You believed patience would pay. You didn't understand that patience without leverage is just slow surrender. Look at what you were signaling. You gave them your time in bulk. You simplified their guesswork. You made your attention a constant. You trained their nervous system to expect you at a discount. That is not romantic. That is economic. Human attention prices itself through scarcity and consequence. If you don't enforce either, you will pay both. Here are the mechanisms you keep pretending are mysterious. 1. The exit option. The one who can walk away holds the frame. You kept announcing you were here if you need. You removed your own exit. You thought loyalty would be rewarded. You forgot that loyalty without standards is groveling. People don't value what has no conditions. They exploit it until it collapses. 2. Investment asymmetry. Whoever pays less to maintain the interaction will dictate its terms. You overpaid time, emotional labor, explanations, apologies. They underpaid sporadic replies, vague plans, suggestive ambiguity. You built the bridge, then thanked them for crossing when they felt like it. They learned they could keep the bridge and reduce their toll. You taught them. 3. Compliance tests. Small violations calibrate the power map. Late texts, non-committal plans. Low, ally fell asleep. You're overthinking. They weren't random. They were instruments. When you didn't push back, you told them the game could continue. You were grateful to be included, so you paid the fee of pretending you weren't bothered. Power took notes. 4. Scarcity and silence. Attraction sharpens around risk and uncertainty. You took that knife away. You replaced it with explanations. You confessed your thoughts before they had to wonder. You removed the friction of not knowing. You made certainty cheap. Certainty breeds contempt faster than cruelty. Silence is a currency. You spent yours on reassurance. 5. Preselection and social proof. People want what is wanted. You advertised rejection. You posted your lack of options through your availability, your schedule flexibility, your endless second chances. You thought patience would prove your merit. It only proven your isolation. Demand signal supply. You kept signaling supply. 6. Boundaries versus punishments. You believe boundaries are speeches. They're not. Boundaries are actions that reduce access without theatrics. A boundary says, when X happens, I do Y. without negotiation. You gave speeches. You held summits. You sent articles. You laid out frameworks. They nodded, then did it again because there was no cost. That's not a boundary. That's a press release. 7. Intermittent reinforcement. The most addictive pattern in psychology is uncertain reward. You lived on it. You called it chemistry. They gave you a hit then withheld. You danced harder. You elevated your output. That wasn't romance. That was conditioning. They didn't even have to be malicious. The system runs itself. You stepped into a slot machine and called it a soul. 8. Ambiguity as leverage. Clarity closes loops. Loops and leverage. They kept it vague because it kept you compliant. Whenever you reached for definition, they gave you poetry. Let's not label it. I like where this is going. I'm just bad with my phone. You accepted the fog because the fog gave you hope, and hope was cheaper than self-respect. You tried to negotiate a contract with someone profiting from delay. 9. Reputation of loss. How you handle disrespect becomes your price tag. You forgive too quickly, too publicly, too often. You never leave after a line is crossed. You ask questions about intent. Intent is a decoy. Outcome is the map. You kept overlooking outcomes. Your reputation became safe to disappoint. No fallout. That is not kindness. That is self-erasure. 10. Velocity control. Whoever controls the pace controls the narrative. You let them dictate momentum fast when they were bored, slow when they had options. You matched, you adapted, you called it being easygoing. You didn't notice you gave away the brake in the gas. You woke up in locations you didn't choose. Then you tried to get closure from the driver. You were the road. If you feel your stomach go heavy, good. That feeling is the bill catching up. You want to be wanted. Say the quiet part. You want to be selected, prioritized, chased. You want to be the exception. You keep trying to achieve that by being nicer, clearer, more understanding. You're doing too much of a tactic that never worked. Attention doesn't reward effort. Attention rewards gravity. Gravity is not performance. Gravity is consequence. Stop lying to yourself about communication. You aren't communicating. You're pleading. You are writing essays to solve a power deficit. Essays don't fix terms. Terms fix terms. The only moment that changes the dynamic is the moment you stop subsidizing it. Not with dramatics. Not with ultimatums you won't honor. With quiet exits, reduced access, enforced standards, and the acceptance of loss. You don't want to accept loss. You want leverage without risk. That's why you're stuck. You want to be able to say no while never losing anything. That impossible fantasy is what keeps you over-explaining. If you could tolerate losing them, you wouldn't be here. You'd be already wanted by people who can sense it, because detachment is not an act. It's a capacity. People can smell whether you can bear silence. They sense whether your time is collateral, you protect, or confetti you throw. Ask yourself the only question that matters. What price do I charge for my attention? Not what price you think is fair. What price your behavior sets. Right now, the price is, just promise me you care, and I'll handle the rest. That price invites predators and bores the decent. You think you need to become colder. You don't. You need to become more expensive. Coldness is a performance to hide need. Expensive is the willingness to enforce standards that cost you company. Expensive is canceling when disrespected and not rescheduling. Expensive is not responding to phishing messages that arrive at 1:12 a.m. Expensive is not offering consultation hours to someone who hasn't earned intimacy. Expensive is fewer words, more rules. There is a moment you keep replaying, a humiliation you haven't metabolized. You typed a paragraph explaining why their behavior hurt you, and at the end, you added a smile emoji to soften it. You moderated your own pain because you were more afraid of losing access than losing yourself. They read it and saw two facts. You know what you deserve, and you'll tolerate not getting it. That's the most dangerous perception you can create. It turns you into the training ground for somebody else's bad habits. Let's talk about clues you leak when you're operating from hunger. The apology you send even when you were the one ghosted. The phrase, no pressure. When you're under pressure, you don't admit. The triple texting separated by jokes. The way you respond the second you see their name, even though they leave you unread. The way you say, I'm chill, right before offering your weekend. The way you pretend to prefer casual, because you think the truth will drive them away. It will. It should. That's the point. Losing those who can't meet you is the only way to create room for those who can. What about love? You weaponize that word to avoid the bill. You think love is a reason to abandon leverage. It isn't. Love that requires your self-betrayal is not love. It is capture. You use the idea of love as a permit to ignore patterns. Then you call it loyalty. It is not. It is addiction to a slot machine that sometimes prints tenderness. You want the mechanism. Here, attraction scans for perceived self-respect. Self-respect is demonstrated through enforced boundaries, not speeches. Boundaries are expensive to you. If they're not boundaries. The ability to leave creates desire. The willingness to stay through anything dissolves it. Certainty given too early depresses investment. Uncertainty paired with integrity intensifies it. Reputation compounds. Each concession without consequence lowers your future price. If you try to mimic this without the spine underneath, you will fail. You will mess up the tells. You will respond too fast and then force yourself to wait exactly 37 minutes because you saw that somewhere. You will post a thirst trap to trigger their attention and break at the first breadcrumb. You will say, I'm done, and answer when they text you up. You cannot fake power. Power is sustained intolerance for what diminishes you. Here is why this hurts. You built your identity around being good. You thought being good should be irresistible. You confused goodness with power. Power is not cruelty. Power is the refusal to subsidize those who treat you cheaply. Power says, my time makes your life better, and that fact has terms. If you can't meet them, you don't get it. That isn't moral superiority. That's how you keep your value from evaporating. Imagine two rooms. In the first, you explain yourself. You rehearse your value for someone who is half listening. You pre-answer every question. You reduce their uncertainty to zero. They nod. They take you for granted. In the second room, you say less. You allow them to wonder. You show. You don't negotiate. When they are late, you leave, not as punishment, but as protocol. In which room do you feel wanted? Exactly. You didn't lose desire. You choked it with certainty and supply. Stop calling your explanations context. You use context to embezzle self-respect. You narrate your way past your own standards. Then you ask why they don't treat you better. They treat you at your published price. You set it with every waiver. Here's what they read when you overshare early. Desperation. Not because of the facts, because of the pace. You delivered intimacy up front to negotiate safety. That's not intimacy. That's a bribe. People recoil from bribes. Or they accept them and never pay you back. Closure. You chase it like it's oxygen. It is not. It's sugar. It won't feed you. It will sedate you. You don't need closure from them. You need policy from you. When someone disappears, I don't pursue. When someone communicates with contempt, I end the channel. When I am unsure, I ask once. If ambiguity remains, I reduce access. That isn't dramatic. That's administrative. You are your own institution. Start acting like one. You tell yourself you're afraid of being alone. You're not. You're afraid of being unseen. So you over-display. You think over-display guarantees recognition. It guarantees saturation. Scarcity is not ghosting. Scarcity is measured availability that matches earned investment. You're not vanishing. You are calibrating. Until you do, you'll keep confusing audience with attachment. Watch the routine. They reply slow. You compensate with speed. They commit vaguely. You fill the gaps with imagination. They give crumbs. You bake bread. You call that optimism. It's not. It's labor theft from yourself. Your future will be a derivative of your thresholds. How much disrespect triggers a consequence? How much uncertainty can you sit with without texting a novella? How many cancellations before they lose the privilege of your calendar? You avoid setting thresholds because thresholds produce loss. Loss produces grief. Grief is heavier than fantasy. You prefer fantasy. It's lighter. It's also why you're here. They can tell when you need something from them that you won't provide yourself. Their nervous system feels your want as a command. It's unattractive because it reverses the physics. Desire flows toward the unneedy, not because the unneedy are better humans, but because they don't try to extract reassurance. They don't project their regulation onto the other person. They are fun to want because wanting them doesn't carry obligations they never agreed to. You, right now, are not fun to want. You're expensive in all the wrong ways. You cost peace and give abundance of access. You exhaust. That is fixable. It's just costly. You will fail at this if you make it performative. You will misinterpret silence as a trick. You will try to weaponize delay. Don't. Silence without integrity is manipulation. Integrity without silence is martyrdom. You need both. Your time is finite. Your attention is finite. Your hope is finite. Spend it like something that can run out. You want a line to remember when the reflex to explain rises in your throat. No is the price of being wanted. Say it out loud. No to disrespect. No to ambiguity that persists after you asked once. No to sending the second explanation after the first was ignored. No to fighting for someone's focus. No to staying where you keep shrinking. Every no creates space for a yes that isn't begging. You think all this will make you lonely. You're already lonely. You're lonely inside dynamics where you aren't chosen. You're lonely next to people who treat you like a filler. You are surrounding yourself to avoid solitude and ending up with isolation. Solitude at least is honest. It lets you rebuild your price without an audience that will bargain you down. You don't need to get better at talking. You need to get better at leaving. Leaving is not drama. Leaving is quality control. If your product is your presence, then quality control is non-negotiable. Most of your suffering came from quality drift. You shipped to anyone with a mailbox. Now you resent the reviews. Tighten distribution. You want to get wanted? Stop trying to persuade. Persuasion communicates lack. Attract by being strict with your own gates. High gates signal high value. Not because of aesthetics, but because of enforcement. If someone can waltz in, they will treat it like a public park. If they had to earn entry, they will look after the space. Those are not their morals. Those are your policies shaping their behavior. You're thinking, but what if they leave if I do this? Good. That's the test. The ones who remain are not saints. They are people who respond to the cost structure you just created. They'll calibrate to it without you narrating why it exists. You won't have to explain your worth. It will be priced into your presence. You ask, what about empathy? Empathy isn't agreeing to be underpaid. Empathy is understanding their constraints while not violating yours. You can empathize and still close the door. You can care and still walk away. You can miss them and still enforce the invoice. If you feel a resistance rising, that's your addiction to explaining bargaining for survival. You think if you just write the perfect message, you will convert their indifference. That has never happened for you. All that writing accomplished was demonstrating that your time is cheap and your standards are flexible. The paradox is ugly. The people most worth wanting are conserved by those who barely write. Not because they are superior, but because they treat every unit of attention like it costs. There is a gravestone in your history called Maybe. You've been living there. Leave. The graveyard of maybes is a museum of stolen years. Power, attraction, desirability, all of it exists in the present tense of action. If they want you, you will know. If you have to ask whether you're wanted, you're not. Not at the level you claim to need. Translate that into behavior. Reduce access. Stop supplying yourself to disinterest. This is the part you will resist the most. You can be kind and still be scarce. You can be warm and still be strict. You can be romantic and still be ruthless with your calendar. Ruthless doesn't mean cruel. Ruthless means consistent. If they earn more, they get more. If they earn less, they get less. If they earn nothing, they get silence. No speeches, no scenes. Just policy. You believe that the loudest love wins. Wrong. The most disciplined presence wins. Because the disciplined presence is felt as safety, not for them to exploit, but for them to relax into. People want what steadies them. You tried to steady them with effort. Real steadiness is constraint. It is. I don't bend in ways that break me. That's the only foundation strong enough to carry mutual desire. You want a checklist? Not to follow, but to confront. Do you answer faster than they do? Consistently? Do you offer more clarity than they do? Consistently? Do you tolerate cancellations without consequence? Consistently? Do you accept ambiguity beyond one clean ask? Consistently? Do you seek closure from people who benefit from keeping you open? Consistently? Do you rehearse conversations that never happen? Do you blame your heart to avoid admitting you have no policy? If you said yes, you're not unlucky. You're undergoverned. Power decides who gets wanted. You cannot hack that with charm. You cannot negotiate it with essays. You cannot inspire it with promises. You can only embody it through enforced standards that cost you. If that makes you heavier, good. Grow into it. That weight is the price of leaving the cheaper version of you behind. And if you catch yourself ready to send the explanatory paragraph, ready to ask for one more conversation, ready to accept one more vague plan, ask the only question that cuts through. What am I teaching them about my price right now? Then act accordingly. No fanfare, no goodbye tour. Just a recalibration of access that signals what you should have signaled from the start. I am not free. I am not unlimited. I am not waiting. Want less or be wanted less? That is the exchange. Decide who you are to it. Then live with the silence that follows. That silence is not punishment. It is gravity returning. It is the only thing that ever made anyone lean in. You know that now. You can't unknow it.